free press, which is not so free, we're going to be talking about that, is getting bought. Okay? Is getting bought. Paramount is reportedly set to buy Bari Weiss's free press for somewhere in the $100 to $200 million range. Now, for those of you who don't know who the fuck Bari Weiss is, for those of you who don't understand the significance of this deal, you probably look at this stuff. You probably look at this stuff and you go, Hasan, why do I care about this? Why should I care about this? Okay? Now, the reason why you should care about this is because Bari Weiss is a uniquely demonic pro-Israel figure in American media. Okay? Like, she is perhaps most responsible for famous Palestinian poet Refat al-Ra'ar's assassination. Him and his entire family was killed by Israel after Bari Weiss literally put a crosshair on him. And it's not just that. Obviously, like the Free Press, her outlet that is entirely propped up by Palantir and all of these like Silicon Valley tech CEOs, have basically been one of the most annoying pro-Israel, one of the most like violent pro-Israel Hasbara operations that you can find. And it's interesting because, like, obviously there's an unlimited faucet of pro-Israel commentary all around, and yet the Free Press still somehow achieves new lengths. Now, what's interesting about this is that the Free Press has 335,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? And their videos barely crack. Like, look at this. Five days ago, 11,000 views. Exposed. Al Jazeera journalist caught working for Hamas. This is literally after Israel assassinated a bunch of Al Jazeera journalists. After Israel did we were hitting a Hamas camera shit, they came out and made this expose using, whatever talking points that the Israeli state gives them. Like, this is not a real news outlet, right? This is just a propaganda outlet for the Israeli state with this American independent patina. It's not true. There is no independence here. They're evil people. They are straightforwardly unimaginably evil people. It's a real who's who of neocons and warmongers. And not only is it a real who's who of all of these like awful people, they're like, they have no motion, right? They have no motion whatsoever. I mean, look at this shit. This has 2 weeks ago, air conditioning, an American innovation that changed everything. 3.2 thousand fucking views. So regardless of the fact that they have no real motion whatsoever with an actual population of readers and watchers and whatnot, there is something suspicious about their funding mechanism. Like, they have a shit ton of subscribers on Substack. But in any case, CBS is now going to be basically controlled by Bari Weiss. That's right. Bari Weiss, whose career trajectory started off as a beacon of like failing upwards for basically sucking up to Israel and being an Omega Zionist, has now finally reached a new level in her career. Here's Brendan Carrott. Bari Weiss is such an interesting character because she basically is the worst person who has ever done her chosen job. Even ignoring all the obvious Israeli shilling, she basically tried to get fired until a prestigious national newspaper let her do this. So one of the things that she tried to do early on was like get in on the cancel culture grift. She got a job. She got a job at the New York Times as an op-ed writer. One of her most famous op-eds at the New York Times was the intellectual dark web. If you remember, under Trump 1, she put together this like intellectual dark web piece where she interviewed, Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin, said these were like the real titans of intellect and debate. That was one of her incredible contributions to American journalism. But like, when she's not doing that, she has always tried to just like get pro-Palestinian people fired while simultaneously complaining about cancel culture and also defending free speech. And what's interesting about this is that regardless of a sequence of fucking L's that normally would absolutely destroy someone's career like this if there was any sort of real meritocracy. Also, here's another Free Press writer, Sasha Seinfeld. She also writes for the Free Press. Writer and junior editor. Anyway, Jerry Seinfeld's daughter. for those of you who don't know, how does CBS come into the fold? Well, as I covered before, covered before, there is a merger that took place between CBS and Paramount. Okay. Paramount Global was the parent company that included the CBS television network and CBS News until it was acquired by Skydance Media in a merger that closed on August 7, 2025. Okay? Sorry, Paramount was the owner of CBS television network. Okay? And the owner of Paramount turned around and after October 7, very clearly, very deliberately, very openly stated, I'm finally going to sell CBS because 60 Minutes is not sufficiently pro-Israel. And if you know anything about 60 Minutes, they added direct editorial control because 60 Minutes, after a year and a half of genocide, finally did one critical coverage. Okay? One piece of critical coverage on America's involvement with Israel's genocide. They didn't even call it a genocide at the time. They just said America's bombs are being used and Israel's using them on children. Okay? This was a bridge too far. They immediately sent in an outsider to do editorial control to make sure that this never happens again. A lot of people actually quit 60 Minutes. But this was a post-October 7. For the Redstones, this was too much, okay? And these guys are so unimaginably wealthy. For them, this is simply, for them, owning CBS is just like another thing that, billionaires have, right? But the reason why he openly sold it, the reason why the reason why CBS was openly sold was specifically because the owner decided it is not sufficiently pro-Israel. This is like by their own admission, okay? By their own admission. Now confirmed that this episode led 60 Minutes to be stripped of its editorial independence and led to the selling of CBS to David Ellison, who now plans to merge the company with Bari Weiss and the Free Press. Sherry Redstone hoped Trump's 60 Minutes suit would root out anti-Israel bias at CBS News, and she sold Paramount partly over October 7. She openly stated it. Okay? Redstone told The Times that for years she had resisted entreaties from potential suitors eager to buy Paramount. What pushed her to finally agree to sell the family business was October 7 massacre of an estimated 1,200 Israelis. Once that happened, I wanted out, she told The Times. I wanted to support Israel and address issues around anti-Semitism and racism. She told The Times that her breaking point came just days before she withdrew from settlement talks with Trump in January this year. CBS aired a 60-minute segment featuring State Department officials who quit over America's support for Israel's Gaza war, a piece that the American Jewish Committee blasted as shockingly one-sided, lacked factual accuracy, and relied heavily on misguided information. Redstone wasn't alone in her concerns. Days after the segment aired, George Cheeks, who oversees CBS, shared Redstone's dismay about the Gaza episode and soon appointed veteran producer Susan Zirinsky as an executive editor to review 60-minute segments, stripping the show of its traditional independence from corporate interference. In April, the longtime executive producer of 60 Minutes, Bill Owens, departed after Zirinsky's appointment undermined his autonomy. Okay? Isn't that fucking crazy? Like, straight up, billionaires just openly saying, like, look, I own a whole ass news organization, and this news organization that I own is not sufficiently pro-Israel. This is like designed. This is like an anti-Semite's wet dream, okay? And they're saying it in fucking broad daylight. Like they're not even like trying to hide it. They're just openly being like, nope, I do not like that my own media outlet that I own is not abiding by my wishes, abiding by my own personal standards, and it needs to go away. This property or sold this property is not enough to get free weapons and political cover to carry out the genocide. Israel and its backers in the U.S. must also destroy any institution, no matter how long it's operated, like 60 Minutes here, that dares to moderately criticize the project once. And now Bari Weiss who I just described to you as a charlatan, a hack, someone who's like written extensively on myself as well, is getting a $200 million deal with Paramount securely in his pocket. David Ellison is on the verge of acquiring Bari Weiss's The Free Press and tossing her the keys to CBS News. The deal is on the 1 yard line, I am told. David Ellison, who is, of course, the son of multi-billionaire and Oracle Corporation co-founder Larry Ellison, who was propped up by the CIA, okay? His son is a film producer and a multi-billionaire and himself, or billionaire himself, who is a media mogul, bought CBS to specifically make it more pro-Israel openly. And in an effort to do so, they are pumping Bari Weiss's bullshit independent outlet, fake independent outlet that's propped up by other billionaires with a $200 million cash infusion so that she can basically control the editorial standards and ensure that they are more pro-Israel. And by that I mean, because American media is already incredibly pro-Israel, as you guys know, right? But the reason why this is incredibly damaging to public discourse is because when Bari Weiss takes over the keys for CBS, she's going to make CBS pump out insane genocide denial. Like more so than just like, key omissions and many other tricks that mainstream editors deploy when covering the issue of Israel, right? Like it's no longer going to be like, oh, we're defending Israel by, writing whatever an Israeli envoy has declared that seemingly contextualizes yet another instance of like unlimited violence against Palestinian children. Now they're just going to say like, no, these children deserve to be fucking murdered. It was awesome. And actually, they're not murdered at all. But if they were murdered, it's good that they were murdered because they deserved it because they're Hamas. Bari Weiss's stream of genocide denial and incitement against Palestinians living in the tents has paid off. Equally racist, pro-Israel Nepo child David Ellison is rewarding her with $150 million, give or take, for a Substack that even this sycophantic write-up acknowledges isn't worth a fraction of that. Dylan Byers, ever the morally incurious court stenographer, ponders if Ellison is just trying something unconventional to shake things up for some other such dopey nonsense. The market for the Gaza famine myth from the Free Press on this was, right at the time when people were recognizing that Israel was committed to doing a famine, by the way, and they literally wrote the Gaza famine myth. Like, it's just a Holocaust denial newspaper, okay? I need you to understand. The American public overall has a lot of unsavory taste, clearly, but I can assure buyers that Joe Six-Pack media consumer is not chomping at the bit for 60-minute segments on why nonstop images of maimed toddlers emanating from Gaza are actually not that big of a deal. A bunch of pro-Israel billionaire lunatics trying to directly do unlimited pro-Israel propaganda beyond what you have already seen from mainstream media. It is crazy to me. And they're not even hiding it. They're just saying it out loud. So if you don't personally think that this is like an incredibly damaging moment for an even more damaging moment for American press, for press freedom and press independence at a time when obviously we need an independent press more than ever before, this is going to make things even worse. Okay? And yeah, as Adam also correctly points out, like Dylan Byers is writing this as like a positive article. This is supposed to be like a article that is pro Bari Weiss, but even this article itself recognizes that this is $200 million for Bari Weiss's operation. That's a little crazy. These guys don't care if they're just melting money, okay? They don't give a shit because they have unlimited funds. They don't even give a shit. They will do a $200 million payout. What does this do? This is to tell every other journalist who wants to start a media career, every other journalist who already has a media career, you will get the bag if you lie at the behest of Israel, no matter how insane your lies are. David Ellison has settled into control of Paramount. A new conventional wisdom seems to have coalesced around a guy who, by dint of his relative youth and centibillionaire father, and might otherwise have been written off as a nepo baby of hyperbolic proportions, because he is. David is smart. His friends and fellow executives will assure you. He gets the business, and most notably, he plays to win. Or as Mark Shapiro put it to me, he is an assassin when it comes to winning. But as John Malone, oh my God, this fucking glaze. Why are you leaving out a key detail? What's the key detail that I'm leaving out? They are straight up. They're straight up doing this openly because they want CBS to be more pro-Israel. And that's why they went to a genocide denial paper that is propped up by other billionaires and greatly inflated its value as a payout, as a massive popular payout, just so they can tell every other fucking reporter to look away or actively defend the state of Israel, regardless of what their morality tells them to do. All right. In any case, David has inarguably moved fast and has taken the reins of his new media barony, a notable contrast from the deal's interminable close. In the span of a few weeks, he reached a $7.7 billion deal for UFC rights, lured the Duffer Brothers away from Netflix, struck a distribution agreement with Legendary Pictures, and this week greenlit a Call of Duty film after acquiring the rights from Activision. If you subscribe to my partner Matt's indispensable What I'm Hearing email, you saw these deals coming long before the ink hit the paper. Even before that, David effectively approved Stephen Colbert's cancellation of South Park's $1.5 billion renewal. Yes, he had a year to plan these moves thanks to Brendan Carr's meddling, but the pace of execution does indeed betray a killer instinct. Now David has made advances on yet another target, the acquisition of the Free Press. David is purchasing the Free Press, the defiantly heterodox news and opinion media entity founded by Bari Weiss. As you know, David has been courting Bari for almost a year and formally pitched her on acquiring the company at then Allen & Co. conference in July. Those talks have progressed in recent days. And I am now told that the two sides have agreed in principle to a deal, and lawyers are hard at work finalizing a format agreement. David's offer to the Free Press is expected to be well above the site's most recent $100 million valuation, but well below the $200 million figure that was recently floated in the Financial Times. That was an absurd ask. The Free Press does $15 million in annual subscription revenue, and Bari's politically charged content makes it hard to scale the advertising business. Plus, there's no tech stack. It's all on Substack. Either way, it will land Weiss a king's ransom. Just a little over 5 years after her dramatic departure from the Times. The deal is not done yet, of course, but as a source of knowledge of the negotiations told me this afternoon, it's on the 1 yard line. It's not Dan Rather's network anymore. As a part of the deal, I'm told David plans to give Bari a role at CBS News that would, among other things, task his fellow millennial with guiding the editorial direction of the division. Bari's avowedly pro-Israel and anti-woke worldview, not to mention her broadly shit-kicking anti-establishment disposition. That's so funny. There is no anti-establishment position. Being fucking quote-unquote fake anti-woke except for Israel is not, it is the establishment position. It is the establishment position. On some level, David's pursuit of the Free Press seems to be driven by a desire to align his news network with his own politics. How else to explain why the guy who just bought his way into Hollywood moguldom, NFL rights, and the streaming wars would want to endure the thankless chore of integrating a politically charged digital news business that, despite his relative success in the Substack economy, would account for a modest 8-figure revenue line in his $18 billion entertainment business. If the lifers at CNN threatened to burn the place down when Chris Licht moved his office to a different floor, imagine the looming hysteria that will transfix CBS News. Assumedly, for Ellison, employee migration is also a part of the point. David probably looks at CBS News as a bit of a blank canvas, as a declining business, a cost burden, and, as recent history has made abundantly clear, a potentially massive PR headache. Why is it a potentially massive PR headache? Because CBS News is like not as invested as being as openly pro-Israel as like the Free Press is, by the way. Okay? Incredible. But the fact that it is losing money also opens a lot of opportunities for reinvention. Why continue to operate a declining asset that also bleeds cash as status quo? What's so funny about this is like assuming that hitting the pro-Israel route is somehow magically going to make this business a more profitable business. Now, this is where I ask myself and you guys the same question. Is David that fucking stupid, or does he just not care and he wants to do unlimited propaganda for Israel? Or is it a bit of both? Because, like, does this man legitimately think that giving a fuck ton of money to Bari Weiss to take over the reins of CBS News when her output is unimaginably unimpressive? Okay? Like, I'm sorry. You got hype from every fucking psychotic tech billionaire on the planet, and you're barely making a dent in the discourse with this shit. Who the fuck thinks this is worth $200 million / even perhaps more consequentially, who the fuck thinks this kind of editorial run is somehow going to change the dynamic of CBS and turn it into a profitable business? That's it. Because if this person's YouTube channel is worth, and all of the media that they have put out is worth $200 million, then I'm worth $200 billion. Okay? It's that crazy. Am I worth 200 billion? No, I'm not. That would be fucking insane. Like, think about it. 200 M's is what Joe Rogan got. 200 M's is what Joe Rogan got for the Spotify deal. I think it was 200 M's, right? Like, do you think Joe Rogan and Bari Weiss have the same level of cultural, have the same level of cultural relevance? Okay. Wait, Joe Rogan was 100 M's. So, yeah. The Juicers kick deal alongside LeBron is worth Bari Weiss. Things that are worth as much as Bari Weiss is the Free Press, an institution that you've probably never heard of. Are we for fucking real? Without getting philosophical, he's planning on owning the asset interminably, and his shareholders have already suffered through years of Sherry-inflicted cash incineration. Why not take a flyer on a format that's economically inconsequential and eroding regardless? And if this maneuver gives David Rose second thoughts about moving back from London to manage the division, he can entrust it to existing newsroom leader Tom Sabrowski. Therein lies the intrigue behind the Bari deal. Even as she's poised to scale down the business, reduce talent salaries, and make it a leaner, trimmer operation, David is also poised to bring on a politically divisive marquee talent who might infuse the brand with a bold new identity and, frankly, at least make the network interesting again. Yeah. In a sea of pro-Israel Hasbara, Bari Weiss, who is not even fucking getting the views, as a pro-Israel Hasbara operation, will finally make CBS more newsworthy and will make it more interesting. Ellison also likely knows there may be a surprising upside here. You may not be able to believe everything you watch on Fox News, but the network's personality-driven content has single-handedly overturned the hourglass on the industry. We're living through a media age, for better or for worse, that prizes authenticity above all. This is the exact opposite of authenticity. This is a person who straight up, shut up, you're a terrorist supporter. The walls are closing in. Nobody fucks with Israel. Okay. Netanyahu himself, by the way, if you want to understand like how the Free Press is so consequential, Netanyahu himself is now pushing the argument that Israel is being unfairly blamed for starvation death because of the boy who also had a piece of his skull blown out by an Israeli shelling. Okay? Benjamin Netanyahu's posting the Free Press. Mossab Al-Debs, the 14-year-old boy, was featured in the same CNN story as another child suffering from malnourishment. The original caption didn't mention that last May he sustained a traumatic head injury. Like, how is this a defense of what Israel is doing? The Free Press wrote this article or made this video specifically to be like, hey, by the way, the people that you're posting about that are clearly starving, don't you know that Israel also shot them and exploded their fucking brains? That's not a defense of Israel, man. Bet you feel foolish now when you find out that the child that Israel is starving also has genetic disabilities, heritable disabilities. Oh, shit, man. Israel's starving disabled children? That certainly makes me feel a lot better about Israel. Said no one. It's for nobody. It's for a person that already is pro-Israel and is just like desperately trying to grab onto anything they can when they're talking to their younger relatives. Okay? That's who it's for. These types of articles are simply for your grandparents and your aunts and your unks. What is this? Hasan Piker offered a soda on stream recently, but he needed to ask, is Dr. Pepper off the BDS list? Imagine being a New York City council member and you're concerned about whether a soda has a fringe association to Israel. Once you see the truth, okay, everyone's on their own journey. Okay. Everyone's on their own personal journey. Some people will never see it. Okay. They have put too much social capital, too much investment into not seeing the truth about what Israel is doing, what Zionism actually is. But once people start recognizing that truth, it's only a matter of time until they come to the same conclusion that you're at right now. So you have to try and be as charitable as possible. Okay. You have to be kind to people and walk them through this journey. It is very difficult for a lot of people to relearn shit that they took for granted their whole lives. Okay? If you want to engage in anti-fascist advocacy, whether it be against the fascist ideology of Zionism, or whether it be white supremacist ideology, whether it be like all this reactionary shit in the United States of America that plenty of people take for granted, you have to be as open-minded as possible, take on as much emotional labor as possible, and be as charitable as possible. Okay? Yeah, you just have to do that. I know it sounds fucking nuts when you're like, well, this guy is like engaging in, Halbara or genocide denial in perpetuity. Like, what the fuck do you mean I have to be nice to this person? Like, no, if you think that person that you're talking to is like charitable, which by the way, your expectation should be that everyone is charitable until they show you that they're not, until they prove to you that they're not. But you have to just remember that we need the numbers no matter what in order to keep pushing, in order to keep creating pressure. You need more numbers always. It's important to just have patience and try to engage people as charitably as you possibly can. Hasi, that's your biggest flaw. So many people fucking suck. Yeah, I think you're wrong. I mean, there are people who suck for sure. Having said that, however, if I shut off people from, going on their own fucking journey, I would say I wouldn't have so many people in here that have changed their minds, have seen the truth. Okay? You're making a 2024 argument in 2025? No. Nope. Remember, there are a fuck ton of people out there who are still completely oblivious, utterly oblivious. And a part of that reason is because the media is so incredibly invested in creating this symmetry between Israel and the Palestinians. So from their perspective, if you're just only tuning in every now and then to this conversation and you're like, somewhat paying attention to it in your day-to-day, it's understandable that even now there might be people who are utterly oblivious, who think like, this is bad. I have kept this attitude up regardless of how much I've been burned, and I've been burned quite a bit. Chart 1, guests on Sunday talk shows by nationality: U.S., Israeli, Arab, other. My study on Sunday news talk shows last year, I found that CBS's Face the Nation was one of the only four networks to have Palestinian Arab guests and was the least pro-Israel in framing overall. Chart 2, views of the guests on Sunday talk shows: pro-Palestinian, neutral, pro-Israeli. By the way, look at how fucking Fox doesn't have any pro-Palestinian positions. And look at how out of whack this is. Look at how out of whack this is, bro. People who are not paying attention to shit, or people who like kind of pay attention to stuff, they only see this. This is a reality design by a multi-billion-dollar sophisticated influence peddling operation. That's the reason why there are still people who are oblivious. So don't take for granted like what you know and assume that everybody else knows that. Do your very best to literally explain to people, because neutrality in this circumstance is also obviously pro-Israel. Neutrality in the face of tremendous injustice is siding with the oppressor. Bari Weiss identifies untapped market void, raises funds. Untapped market void is being pro-Israel, by the way. Being pro-Israel and also doing like anti-woke. What an untapped market void that is. Of course, advisor to vote Tim Scott, Nathan Brand says, Bari Weiss identifies untapped market void, which is not untapped or a void in the market at all. It's the only thing the market has. Raises funds for a startup to fill it amid ridicule from her peers, from billionaires who want this kind of propaganda to continue. Okay. Successfully fills void, sells company to established player for hundreds of millions of dollars. Taylor Lorenz, this is a right-wing grift. It is. It is a right-wing grift. Sagar says the free press getting bought has nothing to do with markets and everything to do with being slavishly devoted to Israel. Free press heads. It's not about Israel. David Ellison, it is literally about Israel. I mean, here, they straight up say it too. It's not like they're hiding it. Look, on one level, David Ellison, son of Oracle centibillionaire Larry Ellison, David Ellison, the fucking nepotist fail son, and his pursuit of the free press feels like a passion play, a chance to virtue signal to his fellow media executives and Trump and talk CBS News towards something less overtly liberal. Jeff Bezos, for his part, seems to be attempting something similar at the Washington Post, though you really need a magnifying glass and Morse code to deduce any sort of strategy there. Anyway, like many in that crowd, Ellison was also smitten by Bari's unwavering support of Israel and preoccupation with the rise of anti-Semitism, issues that are as near and dear to David's father, Larry, as they are to Paramount's outgoing owner, Shari Redstone. It's not even like, it's not a secret. You're not unearthing some sort of secret. They are straight up saying it.